Welcome back to A Plus Parents, everyone. And you've heard me say before that I have a great or a special guest or a great guest. So I'm going beyond that today. The person you're going to meet today is extraordinary. Extraordinary. And why I say he's extraordinary, first of all, because he's just super cool. But secondly, he is someone that actually really makes a difference when it comes to homeschool law. And he works with the state of Florida. He is a registered lobbyist, which I didn't know lobbyists had to be registered. Jason Crawford, he is the brand new lobbyist for and chief communications officer for the Home Education Foundation, HEF. We're going to have all of the links that you can find out more about what HEF does, and it's flhef.org. But you'll see that in the show notes, so you can get there and meet with Jason. And if you know the name, if you live in Florida, I'm sure you know the name Brenda Dickinson. I always get it backwards, right? So anyway, but Brenda and Jason is taking over for Brenda. So yeah. Brenda has been really the lobbyist in Florida for Florida homeschool law, and she actually began doing it with her husband Craig before he passed away. It was really kind of how it got started, and then she took the reins and kept going. But for 40 years. They've been really kind of at the backbone of getting homeschool law, getting it where it is today in Florida, which I'm sure other states have people that are doing similar things out there. So first of all, we applaud people that are already out there and doing it. But
yes,
I met Brenda. Jason and I, we were at an event together back in Tampa about a month ago. And one of the things that Brenda said, Jason, it was really great. She wasn't going to retire until she found the right person, and I mean, she's 40 years into this, right?
Yeah.
And she found you, and you were willing to relocate to Tallahassee, bring your kids there, bring your family there. You've been married for, let's see, what do I got? 20 years, right?
20 years.
Amazing, right? And, bringing your kids there, bringing your whole family there, and coming to a place where then on top of that you are the guy. And, we were talking a little bit, you were telling me about, when, you can't really plan, how your day's going to go when it comes to a lobbyist, right? You might get that call from a congressman or, the state senator, and they're like, hey, dude, I got 15 minutes right now. Get over here. You're like, okay, here we go.
Yes.
So it's really great. And you're bringing something new to the Home Education Foundation, which is great. So you're rebranding it. You and I talked a little bit about how we can, how parents can get involved and, be able to give a lot of testimonials about how homeschooling makes a difference and building a platform for when, for when we look at people that are in Tallahassee, specifically in Florida, but, legislators, it doesn't matter what state they're in, but when they're looking at homeschool law, and oftentimes they're not homeschool families. So they're looking at how to pass a law with limited to no information. And so, you're really making a difference in educating them and everything else there. So, and you told me something today about something called Rumble, which I had never heard of until today. So I'm super excited about that. So you're on YouTube, you're on Rumble, on X, Instagram, Facebook. And again, all of those will be in the show notes so you can connect and find out more about that. So just, I know Brenda is so excited of what you're bringing. And then really like you're the next generation of where we're headed. And so, for me, as a homeschool family for ourselves, and we were a Florida-based homeschool family. Our kids are all graduated now, thank you. But thank you for all that. It's amazing. So there's me saying what the Homeschool Education Foundation is, but hearing it from you is probably even better. So tell us a little bit about what is the Homeschool Education Foundation, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, a great introduction. I can't take a lot of the credit because I'm new to the scene. In fact, when I met Brenda, I didn't really know who she was. Somebody said, hey, you need to help her get ready to pass the torch. And I thought, okay. So then the more I dove in, because we were increasing the visibility for the Home Education Foundation and for her, I just realized like what it was she's been doing for the last 40 years. And it blew my mind. And I thought everybody needs to know this. Like it would blow everybody's mind. So the Home Education Foundation is the corporation behind Brenda Dickinson. She started it in the 90s, 1991, I believe. And it really kind of came out of this need to continue to protect home education in Florida. She had helped write the bill, her and Craig Dickinson, her husband, helped write the bill that Representative Daniel Webster sponsored, and they got turned into law. And in 1985, it became law, right? Home education was legally protected as an attendance path. And that's unique to the way home education is done in other states. For one, she didn't want to call it homeschooling. She's very particular about language. She wanted to call it home education and not schooling, to try to break away from the ideology of school at home. Because even that's the concept we run into now, which is public school and homeschool. It's these four walls or those four walls, but it's all school, right? It's all the same stuff. And it's not. It's very, very different, you know? Anyway, so that was kind of one of the first things that she did. In a lot of other states, to be a homeschool student, you have to register with your church or a private school or a private tutor, like Alabama or Texas, things like that. But in Florida, it's a separate attendance track. And some of the other states have it that way as well. But that gets important later when you get into like the nitty gritty of things. But she's been brilliant over the last 40 years in the selection of language that she's pushed for, and the way that she's been able to kind of express what's important to protect and draw lines and stand on them and get families involved in bringing their testimony to the representatives who are kind of the key people as decision makers. And what she's been able to do over the last 40 years has been aisle crossing. So it's not necessarily one political bend or the other. It has oftentimes been opportunities from paths unexpected that really kind of changed the face of home education in Florida. And she's ready to retire after 40 years, man, 4 decades in. And yeah, you're right. She said that she was just waiting for God to bring the right person. And I was too, because I was helping her try to find the person to pass the torch. And it's funny because I joked with my wife in like a private conversation, and I was like, I would do it, but it just feels like we're stuck where we are. Like we're in this townhome, like we're making exactly what we need to make and the bills are paid, but there's no extra or excess to make a move with or initiate a plan with. Like everything is exactly online where it is. And I said, unless we just had somebody who just they had a property they just didn't need, then we could move in. I was like, do you know anybody like that? And she said no. And 6 months later, in November 2023, that was the call I got. It was like, hey, I know you're working with Brenda. I just had tenants move out, and we didn't know they were going to move out. It wasn't planned, but you know what? We don't necessarily need the income for these couple of months. If you think you'd move into it and get into Tallahassee and start lobbying, it's there. And I just thought, I can't say no. Like,
Wow.
that's just way too, you can call it God or you can call it coincidence. I think it's God.
Yeah,
But when it's something
divine order, brother, it
when
was,
it's something that clear happens. Yeah, I'm just saying
Wow.
yes.
That is so great. Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So you go to Tallahassee, and how many
Yeah.
you have 3 kids?
4.
4 kids. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. What are their ages? Where are they in the
13, 11, 9, and 4. So there's a big split. Yeah, I'm in it. I'm in it for a while, man. I'm in
Yeah,
it
you are.
for good.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, that makes your day busy already, right? On top of that, everything else that you got going
You
on.
bet.
So-
You bet. You bet it does. Yeah. Wrangling them, teaching them, looking for those teaching moments, like
Wow.
watching an attitude creep up and being like, okay, everything stops. It's time to put character in focus and things like that,
Right.
Yeah, keeps me on my toes.
That's amazing. Well, I want to come back to your kids, because especially with that age range, about how you guys, how you do your homeschool day and what it looks like. Because I know
Sure.
people are interested, right? We're always
Sure.
looking,
Yeah.
how do we do this? But when you come back to the Home Education Foundation, so here's interesting, right? I've been in this industry for 15 years myself, and I've been in education for 35 years. It's like,
Yeah. Wow.
it's like a long time, right?
Yeah.
And I've met Brenda a few different times, and I've always known her, and I always knew what she, that she was the person, right? Now, I never got to know Craig, so I didn't get to meet Craig, but I knew Brenda. Why is it that people still don't, because I never heard of the Homeschool Education Foundation until I met you, right?
Yeah.
Which was a month ago, right? So why is it that people still don't really know about it yet?
Man, Brenda she's a heart that is massive, but she speaks soft and direct, and only when she feels that she needs to. She will not toot her own horn. She's not like you see some of these politicians and their big personalities. She's stern and she's direct and she'll hold the line, but she won't toot her own horn. So she's relied on people in her vicinity to help champion the cause. And we all get busy. We all get busy. And for one reason or other, someone would help out in pockets here and someone would help out in pockets there. But she never really had a systematic way of letting people know she was there and that they could support and what the work was that she was doing. So in fact, I was literally, my wife was reading a Facebook post to me today that there's an organization that someone, I guess somehow they communicated it out. But this person on Facebook was like, oh no, this company over here, these are the ones who split the language for PEP and home education last year. And it was so important. And I'm like, actually, it was Brenda. They even mentioned Brenda in their article. And then they use the collective, we did this. And I'm like, yeah,
Wow.
you weren't there. I'm not going to name names, but because everyone would know who it is. But there are lots of people who are willing to take credit for the status, but they weren't necessarily in those rooms, feet in the halls, having the conversations, getting on the phones, pulling parents in, pulling testimony, spending the hours rewriting the wording that the representatives go, okay, this will work, and use to kind of like lobby and get that done. Everyone shows support and then takes credit for it, but she's the one doing the nitty gritty, hour by hour, moment by moment work, but she won't toot her horn. So she's a great example. She's a great example that way, where it's like, just do the work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And right the world and move on.
I love it.
And that means a lot to me, that's her way. And I feel drawn to that too, as my way. So I'm gonna, when the torch fully passes, I'm gonna struggle with that, because I don't like to toot my own horn either. I like to just get it done and move on. But it's cool now because I can talk about her, and I love propping other people up. I love showing their successes and sharing encouragement and being a positive force and an influence. And I find that pushing other people up is the better way to do that. So right now, I mean, it's literally the perfect storm. I come from a marketing background. I understand nonprofits, and I love propping them up. And she's it, and then the torch will pass to me. I think we're doing it this year. So
Wow.
this is the kind of that official moment, capstone. But
well,
yeah,
and from everything that I've gotten to know about you, and we've had a chance to talk a few times already since we met, it's like, you're the right person. There's no, and
thank you.
The fact that Brenda said you're the right person, it doesn't matter what I say. It matters what she says, right? So
oh yeah. Because she knows all the ins and outs.
Yeah.
She pushes me, man.
I bet. That's
I love
good.
it. I love it. I love that she pushes me, because she'll call me and she'll like, you talked over this person, or you did this, or stop stroking your beard. I do that a lot because sometimes a hair will get and itch me, and she goes, you do it too much. And so you're in front of people, you've got to, she's been helping, she'll call me out, man. And I love it. She improves me. So it's good.
Right. Oh my gosh. All right. So if you're just listening to this on audio, right, hop over to our Instagram account or Facebook account so you can see what he's talking about stroking his beard. So you can see Jason, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that's
I forgot
really
about
great.
that.
Oh, that's awesome. You said something that, I didn't even think about as a lobbyist. It's like, because, and, I love that she really is really key on language. That's huge. But even that, a lot of the times when you're sending things to the congressional people,
legislators,
what you call them, congressional people, congressmen, senators, right? Right.
Yeah.
But you're actually looking at some of the language itself, and you're actually sending them the way it should be written.
Yeah, so they're busy people with busy lives, and this isn't what they do for a living when they're in these positions. This is kind of juxtaposed into their actual, lives. And that's not to say that they don't benefit from it, but they've got a whirlwind of things going on that they can't stop doing because the rest of their life falls apart. So you imagine that kind of burden. There's a lot, and there's a lot, and several of them sit on multiple committees. And so they're involved in this committee on agriculture, and this committee on education, and then this one on finances and tax, and then that. They can be involved in multiple things at once, and the staff really kind of help them keep up with pertinent details. But even the staff, there are some times where they don't have the nuanced knowledge of home education that we would like for them to have, even though they're a little bit more granular and in the wording of the law than the legislators tend to be. But yeah, we're seated in it. Like, we are in the weeds. It's my playground. I love it. I'm an avid gamer, video gamer. So when games change and the patch notes come out, I'm combing through the patch notes to figure out like what the new advantages and disadvantages are going to be. And over the years of being a gamer and that being my mindset, I think it's really kind of helped me have an appetite for that kind of thing, because then it's like, okay, what are the laws? What does the word say? What are the changes that they're trying to make? And how is that going to impact in 5 years? Or what would somebody try to do to game a system if this was how it's written? And then do we plug a hole here by using different wording? Or, oh, you've used this word here and then it's defined in statute, but then you used it over here, but not in accordance with the definition. You're talking about something else. So we need to clarify that. Like little nuances that matter a lot, you know. It's
Wow.
the Princess Bride quote where he's like, "You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means," you know. Like, we got cleaning that up and doing it in a way where, words and definitions inherently narrow, and that can feel restrictive. And so some people, the push in a lot of the homeschool community is less, all freedom, all options. And I love that. That's my heart. But I also know that if we don't define anything, it's not real. What's the Disney movie, Beauty and the Beast,
Uh-huh.
right? And the song near the end, it goes, "We don't like what we don't understand. In fact, it scares us. And this monster is mysterious, at least." So our approach to things that are undefined and unknowns is squash it, right? Like get it out.
Yeah.
It's, oh, I can't be trusted. Put it away. So I want to protect home education from being that, right? So undefined that it gets squashed. So it needs enough definition without being too restrictive. And so that's where finding that balance takes wisdom, and it takes a penchant for language. I love language too.
Yeah.
My
That's
background's in counseling. Licensed mental health counseling is where my master's was.
oh,
And when I would work with mentoring young men, especially, I would always start with like, language is everything. Like, you got to hold on to it. It forms thought. Thought becomes action. Action becomes life. Like, your language is literally then your life. So the
yeah.
words you choose matter. Anyway, you
I
were going to say
love
something.
that.
Sorry.
No, no, I love that. Wait, it was something you said about, the idea of home education, and you think back and not knowing. And because we don't know, then we think it's weird.
Mhm.
What's interesting is like, I go back, Brenda started this 40 years ago. When I go back 40 years, it was before my time when I first got into the teaching, right? So 35 years ago and
Yeah.
25
Yeah.
years ago, when I first heard about young people that were doing homeschooling and home education, I thought the same. I thought, well, this just is weird,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it wasn't weird. It was
Yes.
just that I didn't have
Hmm.
information, and my lack of information, I come to the conclusion it must be weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's funny that you say
makes
that.
total sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So,
funny that you say that, because I had a friend I'm 40. So I was born in 83, and I didn't start home schooling in my personal schooling until about 8th grade. So when we pulled out, people at church thought we were weird. They wondered what we were doing. This young guy he was kind of interviewing to be a preacher, and he was like, this weird. What are you guys doing? Now he's a preacher in Tampa with like 6 kids, and he will do nothing but homeschool.
Right.
So it's so funny to me. It's so
Yeah.
funny to me to watch the change over time as that, we're more comfortable. We understand it. It's been defined. We work with it, and that matters. It changes.
Right. We brought our kids home 10 years ago is when we brought them home.
Yeah,
They're
there you
both
go.
graduated now, but oh my goodness, how
Congratulations.
much I had to interact with family members and friends and,
Mm.
and everybody like, why are you doing this? And blah, blah, blah.
Oh
And I
yeah.
was already working in the industry. Like I discovered it because I was working in the industry. I was like, this is the way to go. But
Yeah.
how many times I found myself explaining myself. And then I realized it's like, wait a minute, I'm explaining myself to somebody that doesn't know what this is. So I have to start there
Yeah.
and kind
Yeah.
of like unfold the education because all they have to go
Yes.
on is what they know and what their background was, which wasn't home education. So
And you hit on the exact thing as to why we started the Tell Your Story project. Like you hit the hammer on the head. You had to go back and start with like what it is first. Like, here, let me introduce you to this, and then you'll get it too. And that's really the impetus behind the Tell Your Story project, which is what we put it on our website, and we want parents to go there and kind of tell what is home education? What is it that you do? And show the uniqueness of it. And then talk about why you do it, like either why you started or why you do it the way you do when it's different. And then talk about the impact it's had for your family, like your choices have had. And just 60-second video or less, put that together and package it so that other parents can be inspired. We have lots of new families dipping their toe in the water, and they're like, well, what do we do, and what can we do? A lot of them still think when they're coming from public school that they got to bring public school home to school at home. And there's you don't. So that's kind
right.
of like the first year. And then it's like, you don't have to do every problem in the book either. And they're like, wait. And then the third year, it's like, well, you're really free to do what you want. The world is your classroom. Like you can field trips and pack, there's so much you can do. And legislators are out on that subject matter as well. They're in that place where we want to introduce them to that information you're talking about.
Wow. That's so, all right. Well, there's 2 things that, about Tell Your Story. So I'll have to ask you
Yeah.
both, right? So, for people that are new in homeschooling, or, I think there's the other kind of homeschooler, they've been at it for a while and they get to a place where they forget why they're doing it. They get to that
Burnout.
almost burnout stage, right? So what a
Mm-hmm.
great place to go and actually
Get some
see other
inspiration.
people, be inspired, remember their why they're doing this, why it
Mhm.
makes a difference. And so that's
Yeah.
great. So it's at first thing,
Yeah.
what a great resource for people. But then the other question is that is somebody that wants to post a video on there, how do they do that?
So right on our website, flhef.org, there's a link in the menu right at the top where the Tell Your Story project lives. And on that page, all the details and some inspiration ideas and information about how and all that kind of stuff is there, but the upload button is also there. So they can go right to that page.
Oh,
Once they
that's awesome.
can come back to it once they're done with their idea and just upload it right there.
Oh, that's really great. Now, is it Rumble friendly? Like
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Rumble
it's funny because
supports formats similar to the
sometimes
other
it's
one.
like, like people put things on there. Do you have to go through and kind of look at it first before
Oh
things that go
yeah.
on?
Oh
Or-
yeah. So I do comb through them first because it's not to say that all of them have to be professionally shot or amazing, but
right.
we're really looking for those kind of heartfelt moments. And sometimes people will drone on about certain details and miss the heart. Like they're giving information and function. And I'm
Right.
like, it wasn't about like diving into your spreadsheets. It was about like the heart and soul of the impact, why you home educate and
Yeah.
what it's done for you. So some, like
Yeah,
I'm
you're-
nudge a little. I might
you're
send it
providing
back and be like,
coaching. I
hey,
get it.
yeah,
Yeah, you're
and I'll
just there
coach
to
them. Yeah.
you provide
I'll
coaching.
coach
I
them.
love that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
for sure.
All
Yeah.
right, now here you are, you're a lobbyist, right?
Yes.
And knowing that when you're working with the different people that you work with, you're working with the congressmen, the state senators,
Mhm.
their staff, right? And typically most of those people are probably not homeschool and home education families.
Right.
So
Some are, but
given
it's
some,
not
right?
across the board. Yeah.
But you are.
Yes,
So
that's correct.
given, 4 kids from ages 13
Oh
down to
yeah.
4, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, your own home education strategies, some of the things
Mm.
you do. What's a day in the life at the Crawford house look like?
So my wife likes structure, and I'm kind of the chaos to her order and the yin yang balance of our relationship. So she will have plans of like, here's science and here's math, and she's researches the curriculum, and I kind of generally have more of a things I want to teach them, and I come at like from a character bent, and then I go, now how can we infuse math into that, or how can we infuse a history moment, like let me tell you about somebody who tried this in history, and like pull in something like that. And one of my favorite things to do with them is Dungeons and Dragons. So I will you can see the books and the dragons
I love
behind
it,
me.
man. You're a total gamer. That's
I'm a
it.
geek, dude. Yeah. But what's fun is to give them enough information, a prompt, if you will, about what's going to be in the campaign for them to create their character and give me a good backstory. That involves creative writing, that involves, taking prompts and infusing them into their own ideas, but within a structure. And then of course the fun happens when they each have their own individual characters and they have to live play them out together and weave their stories into one another in live play. And then for math, and as a part of it, everything in Dungeons and Dragons, the game isn't so tightly scripted. So there's a lot of random chance. And in random chance and bringing that to life, there's a lot of math that gets involved. And so there's all different kinds of dice that they have to roll. And my kids will roll the dice and try to hit the dragon or try to hit the orc or whatever, or cast their little arrows, bows and arrows, and shoot at things. And then to do that, there's a chance of probability and missing, and the dice tell you that. So I make them do their own math, assess the dice, double it or half it based off of this or that damage. And if they don't do the math, then they don't do the damage. That can very much change the way a fight goes.
Oh, I love it.
And
I
if
love
they're
it.
taking too long, I'll flip a timer and put them on the edge of their seat. We're like, it's fun.
That's
It's
so great.
yeah.
That all the I hear paradise, I think probability. It's like, and I love it. So
Mm,
there's a game called Catan. Are you familiar with Catan?
yes. Settlers of
I
Catan.
Yes, I love
Yes.
that game.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's funny,
fantastic.
but I mean, I'm all about, what number am I on? Because I know the probability of what's going to happen or not
Right.
happen. And then
Yes.
you get mad because, what's supposed to happen doesn't happen. And 12
Yes.
keeps getting rolled and it shouldn't be, right? So
Yes. Yes. There's a similar game. So I used to teach a communication and life skills class at a home education instructional program in Tampa. One of my favorite games to bring into that group is called Dragon's Gold. And
oh,
it's a
okay.
game where each person has a set of adventurers and they participate in slaying a dragon. And then the dragon has a hoard, and there's a black silk felt bag that you pull the treasure out of, and it's all random. But there's so many rubies and diamonds, and there's a set number of them in the set, and then you're trying to negotiate over your split of the spoils. There's a 1 minute timer, and if you don't agree, no one gets anything. And so round after round, you do this, and there's a strategy to intentionally not agreeing to dump the total number that get offloaded so that you end up with the maximum amount out of the bag at the end so that you can claim victory. It's interesting. Yeah.
Wow. I,
The math
hey,
is really involved in that.
as you're sharing that, I'm like, you need to take that game to Tallahassee, right?
Yeah, man.
You get
Yeah.
1 minute. You don't come up, you don't agree. That's it. It's
Yes.
over, right? So
Yes. I love that timer because it's good. It keeps people on their toes. Yeah.
absolutely. Oh my God, that's great. I think that's awesome. All right. So,
Uh,
everything that you're doing, plus being really mentored and guided by Brenda,
yeah.
you've probably gotten so much more information about what it is to be a home educator, to be a home education
Sure.
family, like whatever, all those things. Is there something that you would think that you would just love for parents to know?
Yeah.
They're thinking about homeschooling, they're thinking about being a home educator.
Mm.
What's something that you would love for them to know that they probably haven't thought about yet?
That's a great question. I think I'm going to split it maybe two parts. The first one is for people new, or looking for renewal, maybe. Take a deep breath. It's really not all that big a deal. Like for us, we're lifelong learners. The most important things I can do is be with my kids and infuse them with character, morality, and a strong sense of relentlessness in pursuit of their passions, their dreams, and their goals. Because then I can turn them loose. And if they run into a math problem too big later, they'll figure it out. They run into an issue with work, they'll figure it out. Like the foundation has been prepped. So focus on that and take a deep breath. All the stuff that's details, all the stuff that the systems tell us is the importance boxes to check and do this so you can be there and blah, blah. You can figure it all out. You got life ahead of you. Like you'll get there. You'll get there. But you won't always end up a good person.
Yeah.
Right? So like teach them that. Core them in that. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's really awesome. It's great. And it does. Start with a deep breath. You get centered. You get time to let go of everything, all those thoughts that are kind of screaming at you in your head, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Quiet that down a little bit, right?
Yes, for sure. For sure. That little voice is so
Oh,
bad sometimes.
yes. It just doesn't stop talking. It's like, yeah. It's like,
Man, moments of silence and meditation are so good. But yeah, that deep a lot of parents that I run into, they're afraid they're not enough. You know, my mom too. So my mom was a single mom, a bus driver. We were dirt poor, and I don't know. I think at a certain point she was kind of like, here's a curriculum, you know, try it, like, son, go figure it out. And you know what though? I did. We're capable. Our kids are capable. Our kids are capable. Put them in challenges. Let them figure their way through it and ask for help. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Sorry.
That's great. You reminded me of something, because it's like we do, as people, like we do get in this space where we don't think we're enough for what we need to do, and for what we've been called to do, what God's plan is for us. And we're like, no, it's not that. It literally took a homeschool mom. I was doing a lot of tutoring, and it took a homeschool mom that said to me, she said, please, will you just write your own program and write your own course? It was not on my radar, right?
Yes.
It was one of those things. It was on my radar, right? But it was on my radar, like,
you needed the nudge.
Cool, but I'm not that. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know anything about that, right? And for her to say, look, I see the difference you're making with our family. She said, why don't you just write your own program? And she had to say it more than once, by the way. So,
yeah, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, me too, right? But it was, it's just funny when, when we think that we're not enough, we're more than enough, and we have to give ourselves permission really to let that in. So, have to always go back and, if the
permission to let that
if you're
in.
listening out there, thank you again, right? So there we go. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a similar nudge. Why I'm here doing this was from Dina Fox. She was the director of that class program in Tampa. And she's the one who kind of nudged me and was like, you need to do this. You need to go. You need to go. She was like, she needs you. She needs you. And I thought,
we're getting pushed out of the nest, man.
That's right. I was like, I'm just a dad. I'm just a nerd. I'm just a gamer geek. I give the same excuses, and I don't know. I just quit.
I love it.
It's a bad habit. I quit.
Yeah. Wow. Well, now you're unquit. It's good. So all right. Well, let's talk about that. Like there's the legislators that are there.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are actually going to get the laws passed. They're going to present them, they're going to vote on them, they're going to have conversations about it.
Be the feather in their cap. Yep.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. And then come back and say, see what I did for you. And
that's right. That's right.
So when you because you're around them all the time. So when you're with them, they're writing laws that cover homeschooling and home education.
That's
But
right.
how, for you, it's like, do you feel like, I mean, do they really understand what
Mm-mm.
we're up to and what we're doing?
Oh, no, not at all. Not even close. I think in the last legislative session, there were really some moments that hearkened that and pulled it to the surface with some of the retorts that we got. The new scholarship, the PEP scholarship, that's for homeschool in Florida.
Right.
And then there's home education. And both of these are two separate enrollment paths. But immediately, the very moment that they created the scholarship, they did the very thing everyone was afraid they would do. And they sought to restrict it. And this wasn't small. This was huge. They wanted to eliminate all equipment that would be for electives. And
Wow.
if anyone was purchasing, they could purchase classes, just not any equipment, period, for any electives. Any equipment would have to be only for the 4 core subjects. So that would remove STEM and robotics equipment. That would remove paintbrushes, easels, clay, like cones for PE. Like that would remove, and a lot of this stuff might seem small, and it is, but it adds up. It adds up,
Sure.
and the home education families, their tax money still gets taken out of their pocket and put into the public education system, and they are left there with, they're paying for that, and they're paying to all the resources that they have to homeschool with. So it's kind of like, it's good, I think, to have a little bit of a kickback. I think there's a better way to do it, but
Yeah.
that's not how they did it. This is how they did it. And immediately, as soon as they did it, they start restricting it. And what they said was, why would homeschool kids get this if public school kids don't? And some of the lines that they drew were ridiculous. Like, we just don't want students to be able to buy a horse. We want them to be able to take the horse riding lessons. And on the surface, if you don't know anything and you're not in the weeds, you're unfamiliar with how any of it works, that makes perfect sense. Like that statement on its head, you're like, yeah, what are we trying? We're trying to buy horses with, the
Right.
scholarship money? Oh, yeah. Or someone we also said, well, we want them to be able to take driver's ed. We just don't want them to be able to buy the car, with the scholarship. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah. On its surface, it makes perfect sense if you
Right.
don't know anything else about homeschooling or the scholarship. The truth is, in the scholarship law, it was already not eligible. Those were not eligible expenses.
Right.
So they didn't know. But the retort was, well, why would homeschool kids get this if public school kids don't? And then what really struck me as odd is February 22nd was when we were in front of one of the committees talking about this very subject. 2 days prior, on February 20th, an article printed in the Tallahassee Democrat about how a Leon County middle school was building a gaming studio for the students. The students are excited because they get to pursue their passions. And then
Right.
they're excited to come to school again. And then they weave the education in through their passions. Dennis, that's what we've been talking about for like the last 40 minutes, you and I, right? Like
Right.
literally that's the
Wow.
methodology of homeschooling. And that the reverse logic wouldn't apply, I'm sure, though. Well, if public school kids get that, homeschool kids should get that.
Right. Of course.
Right? That would be the reverse logic. So now
Yeah.
the scholarship should be able to buy gaming studios and outfit a gaming studio in your home for your kids, right? No.
Especially
There's a
your
massive
house,
disconnect.
right?
Yes, for sure. There's a massive disconnect,
Right.
in how they see it all set up and how much they even know. They're not in those details. And that's why I live in those details. My wife and I were in the law, in the purchasing guide, working with the scholarship funding organizations, building relationships with other people so that we have all the information that we need. And then what we try to do is highlight places where the legislators don't know, and then provide them with enough to get them up to speed in their fast-paced lives and careers so that they can make better choices and know, I do think that when you give somebody the information, I still believe this. I'm starting to ease up on this belief a little because sometimes people just want to do things, right? But I do believe that if you give people the information and you lay it out, then they tend to have a hard time doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Right. They have to put effort in, so.
Right. I like that. Oh, that's great. Well, okay. So if you're listening, check out FLHEF.org. Tell
Yes.
your story. It's one of the best things, one of the best resources that Jason have access to for
Yes.
when those legislators, when they don't understand. What a great way to help them get educated by hearing your story. So, check it out. We'll have all that in the show notes. And Jason, we got to come back and do this again, man. This is just too much
Yeah,
fun.
I'm
So,
down.
yeah. So we'll get back. And I was telling you before we started recording, I am going to, after the first year, I'm going to work it out. I want to make a trip,
Yeah.
hang out with you for a day or a
I
couple
look
of
forward
days.
to it.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So
It will be. It'll be
yeah,
epic.
because I
Maybe
want to
we
get
can
educated
do
in
one of
what's going on.
these together
Yeah,
during
we'll do
that
that.
time. That
Right,
would be
yeah, on location, right?
that'd be that'd be great. Yeah.
You know what? That's a great idea. Okay, game on.
Yeah.
That's what we'll do.
All right, cool.
That's
Game
perfect.
on.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in to A Plus Parents, and I hope you had as much fun listening to this as I had recording it with Jason. We'll see y'all next time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.